Welcome to Ship of a New Story. Today we are sailing on Folkemødet, which is a dialogue platform for democratic dialogues. We have created Ship of a New Story to set sail for what is best for the world. My name is Stellan Nordahl. I'm the moderator and facilitator of this dialogue that we have on the theme, the new Nordic Normal. We have seen a year of change, which has in most cases come from some kind of outside. But now as we get to choose, what do we choose in terms of the change we want? And for this topic, we have invited three fantastic panelists. So Andreas Lønnefors, you're professor in History of Ideas. Jan Christoffersen, you're engaged in the political party called Alternativet in Denmark, and you're also on the list for Folketinget on the list. And then we have Maria Stockhausen. You're member of the Swedish Parliament, and you're also engaged in something called the Nordic. What do you call it in English? Nordiska Rådet. What is the name of English?
Nordic Council.
Super. And again, my name is Stellan Nordahl. I'm warmly welcome to this interesting topic, and let's see how we can engage in it. So, Andreas, you have prepared some, I would say,
introductory notes, questions, introducing to the general problem, so to speak, that we are facing. And fortunately, we are moving into a post-pandemic world. We hope so, of course. And the question now is, of course, how can we create a new normal where Nordic collaboration again turns significant to us? And can we build a new Nordic normal from below? And what are the narratives that unite us? That is a topic we will be discussing more during the day, actually. But here we are talking to you both because we are very curious of what you have to say about it. The COVID-19 pandemic has uncovered old and new cultural, social and political borders in the Nordic region. Previously seen as a beacon of cooperation, collaboration and stable governance. But what we have seen over the last 1.5 years is that distrust, division and disinformation is around that threaten political, societal and cultural cohesion in our region. But how did these spotlights actually emerge during the pandemic, both within and between Nordic countries, and how can we counter them? And my hope is that we can dissect these overlapping dynamics of distrust, division and disinformation that have been propelled by conspiracy beliefs, and thus address how we can meet and to respond to similar future challenges across Nordic space. So I would like to know what the toxic processes of a new Nordic disintegration looked like, and of course, most importantly, map possible routes for a future Nordic reintegration. And by this, a key issue is to consider that in the face of crisis, national borders fail to deliver security, certainty, and most importantly, hope. So I hope really that the new Nordic normal instead can be created from below so that we get a new energy into that process. And also sending greetings to you on Bornholm, maybe on islands defying the logic of old paradigms. We are moving between Denmark and Sweden on this electric ferry, and we are looking forward to exploring how we can overcome old paradigms and move forward. So with these words, I'd like to introduce our panelists to say something about themselves. So Maria, starting with you, who are you, what do you think we need to reignite a Nordic collaboration post-COVID?
Because I'm on the Committee of Infrastructure in the Swedish Parliament and spokesperson for my party when it comes to infrastructure, which is an important part of Nordic cooperation and to be able to move between the countries by boat or train or plane. It's important for us. I think this. We've had a few digital meetings with the Nordic Council, and I think all of us are used to seeing each other and talking about how to collaborate better and how to make sure that our borders aren't borders for cooperation between our countries. And all of us are, I think, still a little bit in shock of what has happened and how this pandemic has affected all our countries, and especially our cooperation between the countries. And I think it's mostly significant for those living in border areas and maybe commuting between countries where this pandemic has created a lot of personal tragedies, actually. But I think there's a lot to learn. Sweden we're known for our extreme strategy when it comes to handling the pandemic, and I think that has also affected the cooperation between the countries during this pandemic. I think we would have been better off if our strategies had been more in sync, and I think Sweden is the odd one out here. I think. If I look at how we've been talking within the Nordic Council, and that is, we all want to learn from what has happened because we're not happy with the situation we're in. And we see that there is a lot of spirit of cooperation, and we want our countries to work better together. And we are all, within the Nordic Council, of course, because we're engaged in the Nordic cooperation, but also I'm hoping that all the Nordic governments will actually sit down and learn from this experience and hopefully prepare better for maybe other crises to come.
Right. Thank you so much. We will address the topic of infrastructure.
Definitely.
We'll end in a panel today about the string collaboration, actually, tying together Oslo and Hamburg, and of course raise the question again if infrastructure has to go hand in hand with thinking about collaboration and making meaning for the people who live across border regions. But Jan, thank you for being here. Who are you? And the same question goes to you. What do you think?
Okay. Thank you. Well, my name is Jan Christoffersen. I am a member of the Danish party called Alternative, and I'm working I'm a candidate for the Folketing and the European Parliament for the party. I'm also working for the party at Christiansborg. Just a little bit about myself. Concerning your question, what do we need to reignite the cooperation between the Nordic countries and Denmark, Sweden? I think the first step is to take a lesson of what the COVID-19 has taught us, and I think COVID-19 has enhanced some of those things that we already knew. It just reminded us that though we are separate countries, and Maria was talking about it, that we were making different strategies against the COVID-19, we are still so entangled together that we really need to meet. And I just noticed that Maria also said that the meeting in the Nordic Council is there, but I really need that there will be both political energy and will to make focus on this area, and also for media and thank you for this arrangement to have some focus on the Nordic collaboration, because I think it also means that besides infrastructure, it's also about health.
Okay, so I think we just lost John there a little bit. See if we get him back in a minute or two.
Is Maria here? No.
Let's see what's happening here. I think while we're waiting for them, Andreas. Okay. Okay, maybe you're back. We lost you the last 30 seconds, Jan. If you just could repeat a little bit of the last words you spoke of. Okay. We're broadcasting from this Aurora, so we're traveling right now between Sweden and Denmark, and I'm thinking actually about borders, as both Jan and Maria mentioned them, and they could be, of course, troublemakers, the borders, and limiting us, but also enable us. I mean, Öresund, as we're traveling over it right now, it's something that connects us. Let's see if we get them back here now. No, we have a problem with No, I think you're back, Jan. We lost you for a minute, I guess.
Yes.
Do you hear us again? Okay, so sorry. You heard him all the time, okay. So it's us traveling between the two countries. So while you were away from us, we spoke a little bit about borders, and we spoke about borders as limiting us, or maybe borders as enable us. And right now we have some issues here. While we were actually right on in the middle of Öresund between the two countries, and there is some kind of a glitch. Yeah, it's a glitch there. So that's what we want to reconnect. Yeah. So maybe if you just give us a short sum of the last minute. We didn't hear you at all, Jan, in the last minute. Yeah, just repeat a little bit of the last, the final argument. Mm.
Oh, no, fine, but you're summing up, because we lost you for...
Okay, well, I would suggest to sum up then.
Yes.
I think the COVID-19 taught us that we are separate nations. We have chosen different strategies, but it's still very important for us to enhance the cooperation, because COVID-19 has taught us that if a bat is waving with the wings in China, it has implications for how you travel between Copenhagen and Malmö, how you travel between Helsingør and Helsingborg. And we then, of course, we also need some better internet connections on.
Indeed. Okay, Andreas, what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, my thoughts are, of course, we have all this willingness, but more in detail, what do you think was the reason for the breakdown that in a crisis situation like this, the different...
No, I didn't hear you.
Do you hear us now?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, we go for it again.
What was the reason why the response to the crisis was breaking down fairly quickly between the different countries, do you think? Was it that it was a kind of national spine reaction, or what more in detail was the problem? That we still see health issues as having national borders, or was it simply that there were platforms for communication lacking? Because what we want to achieve here is to connect Bornholm and Gotland, so to speak, Almedal and Folkemødet. Would you also say that is that what we need for the future? To have better platforms so that we, in a crisis situation, don't fall back into national modes of crisis management? Who wants to start?
Yeah. Who do you want to start?
Yeah?
Okay. Okay. You go on. I think I'll let.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, I think there are many reasons for the different strategies, but if I should say something that we should learn from this, is that if we, and actually I think, though you can point fingers at some things, I think the countries have done what was in what each country was prepared to. I think it's a normal reaction that a country would say, okay, this is about, we are looking at a disease and we don't know the implication of this disease. I think it's quite natural that every nation's first reaction is to say, how do I take care of the Danish citizens, the Swedish citizens, the Norwegian citizens? I don't think that's. I think that's a ground, a founding thing that we cannot look past. I think we should establish that as a fact. But what we could do and maybe enhance and learn from the COVID-19 is how do we cooperate about, for example, respirators, vaccines, sharing information, all those things. And if I should point out something, and Maria was talking a little bit about it before, the different strategies from for example, Denmark and Sweden. For Danish perspective, I think the strategy was actually in the start very how do you say? First, it was the health authorities who had the mandate to say, how do we tackle the COVID-19? But unfortunately, they did misinterpret the situation. I think it's fair to say, though I think it's a bit early to make an exact evaluation of this. But then the political level took over and make this hard lockdown, which I think, as we stand up now, was the right thing to do. But could for example, the EU or Nordic cooperation could be in the future standing looking for a new disease or something like that? Would we be able to cooperate, to have like a common approach? I think we should try to cooperate to make forums who could do that. But I also think it's a very long road to coming to that.
Thank you very much, Jan. Maria, you were about to say something, so let us hear.
Yes, but I think it was sort of a shock to the whole world and to our Nordic countries, and I think you react that as a government that you're responsible for your own citizens, and there was also, if you look at the EU partnership, there was also some glitches there as well between, like, it was more like every man for themselves to start with, but then they started cooperating better when it came to the vaccines, and I think the European Union has done quite well when it comes to supplying the vaccines for member states. But I think I'm in opposition in Sweden, so I have my doubts about our strategy, and that's going to be a big commission to evaluate if this was handled correctly, and that's going to be interesting to follow. But I think from a Nordic perspective, I think it's we will probably, like, if there's a situation like this again, I think the first reaction is going to be like every country for themselves, but it would be important to find like to have to agree on some kind of strategy when we're not in the middle of a crisis, on how to open up ways for communicating, and that has to be on the highest level of our governments. If this happens, okay, within the Nordic Council of Ministers, they form a crisis group of prime ministers or whatever that can communicate regularly, and that can I think it's also will be helpful for the parties in power to be able to discuss how to handle the situation in their respective countries. And also, I think we all know now what closed borders means to people living in those areas. And that it's important for them to early on in some kind of crisis like this actually figure out a way to handle these people so that they are not. There's some really sad tragedies in some of them where they didn't get any income and don't get support from either government, and have all those things sorted out if something like this happens again. I think the willingness is there to actually do this, but it's going to take a lot of work, and I hope that we're able to finish that and have a strategy ready for how to open up ways of communications and how to make it easy to solve political issues if something like this happens again.
I'm also thinking of, you were into it a little bit, Jan, and you mentioned it a couple of... In my sound, okay. You hear me? Okay, sorry. Okay, you were a little bit into it, Jan, and you mentioned it a couple of times also, Maria, and that is Nordic collaboration. That has different levels. We are both on the governmental level, and I guess that's what you mentioned when you said, Jan, it's really 2 countries and so on, or 3 or 4, or how many we include in the Nordic collaboration. What I'm thinking of is there are also a regional level, and the regional level is, I guess, more relevant to day-to-day living, and for people as, I mean, me and Andreas, we're living in the Malmö, Öresund, Copenhagen, Greater Copenhagen region, And for us, it's like that's our day-to-day life. So could anyone of you relate to how can we get that regional? That's also part of the Nordic collaboration.
I think it's important to, when we are not in a crisis situation, that we actually evaluate what happened in this situation, that like with the pandemic, and how which communications ways needs to open up quickly to solve practical issues, so that there's actually, if this happens, there's like a plan that you can open up and say, okay, this is what we agreed on, I'm supposed to contact this and this, and that can be also on a regional level, or even between municipalities, that it's all set, that there is a way to open up communications very early on when this happens. I think that's a way to solve issues in a pandemic or other crisis, to have that plan, and on all three levels. In Sweden we have the national level, you have the regional level and the municipal levels, but with the same counterparts in the different Nordic countries.
Yeah, that's right, that's right. And Andreas, you were also into, Jan, sorry, Jan, you were about to say something, Jan.
About communication between the different levels, and also I think it could be important to have like a plan on what is going on if we experience an epidemic like this again, and we have to tackle it with local lockdowns, etc., which has been one of the ways Denmark have done it, and I also believe that there have been local lockdowns or different strategies locally in Sweden. But if the Copenhagen municipality and the Malmö were talking together and might found out that to have to experience it as a whole area, so that people day-to-day travelers, pendlers, Danish living in Malmö and Swedes living in Copenhagen, could be that we could find out some kind of way that they could, as far as possible, of course, live their day-to-day life.
So my question would be to you, what do you think would be the next sensitive step? Maria was already into it. We should gather information about how the crisis was handled. Should we have a kind of white book that is produced? Should we have roundtables, focus groups? How do we move forward? Yeah, how do we move forward? I think that would be a great topic to discuss over the last 10 minutes of our conversation. Yeah. Anyone who wants to pick that up? Or Maria, is anything already planned in that direction from the side of the Nordic Council? Or what is your opinion on what we should do next to move forward?
We have also, of course, discussed a lot of the issues regarding between and the situation in our different countries and on the border regions. But it's been it's been more of how to compensate those that have been like suffering economic loss or whatever that live and work on different sides of the borders. I think it would be important, and I think the Nordic Council can initiate that for the Nordic ministers to actually start this process, but I think it needs to be done on like the minister level of our governments, that they need to agree on to evaluate what happened and to also decide that we need a strategy for if something like this happens again. I'm thinking, I'm getting a lot of ideas during our discussions, but as a member of the Nordic Council, we are able to, within our, make a proposition for something the ministers should do, and this is something that I think if I need to because I haven't seen anything that's been initiated so far, and I think the Nordic Council could be a way of initiating this process, because it's going to take time, but it needs to be really high-level meetings and a strategy that actually our prime ministers agree on.
What's your take on that, Jan?
Well, again, I think it's very interesting what Maria said. If I should say, come with some ideas, I would say first, it's very important that we separate the health expert area and then the political area in tackling a crisis here. At the start, with Denmark in March 2020, there was a big confusion. What is the health authorities area and what is the politics area? What is coming up in Denmark is what we call the epidemic commission, which has members of, which is both experts of health issues, when you have politicians and members from different parts of the state. I think it could be an idea to gather experts on health issues on a ministerial level. It could either be servants or etc. And then top politicians to cast out an idea for how do we want to tackle this in a Nordic context. And that could be with and I think it should be it's very important when you have those ideas and those members that you have someone who represent like the health expertise, the politician level, but also the practical level, because the health experts can say, okay, we can estimate this and this. The political level can take decisions and also to have the broader point of view. But we also need the practical level. We need, when the politicians come up with ideas that we have to lock down in this way, we need people from the civil society, people who's actually going out to enforce those rules and regulations. We also need their point of view, and also the commercial side of the society also.
I'm picking up a lot of the ideas. I've written down a lot of things here. You mentioned, both of you, ideas on, and I really like your take there, Maria, to use the Nordic Council to initiate stuff. And that's on a high or on a governmental level. What we're also thinking of areas from below. How can we do it from below? And you mentioned now citizens, civil society, and maybe it's something that we can address to all that are watching this dialogue now, that we need those dialogues between people, between the countries, between also between regions, of course, because a question could be of relevance in one region and not in another, as it has been very clear, not only dividing countries, also dividing different regions and areas of the different countries. So I'm thinking here, Andreas, how can we build this from below? What are your ideas and questions to the panel?
Yeah, my question would then be, of course, I absolutely agree with Maria that the Nordic Council should and definitely initiate such an initiative, but we also need to get the voices and the representation from below. Because what this pandemic has shown, and you might know that I have been working on this, is how to tackle toxic disinformation that has come into our societies. And both Denmark and Sweden have had anti-corona movements that were, in the Danish case, bringing violence to the streets, and in the Swedish case, bringing people out on the streets on very strange coalitions that were, and that is something, I see that as a sign of two things. One is the toxicity of disinformation, but also the frustration on behalf of people to understand such a complex crisis scenario as a pandemic, which we of course cannot rule out for the future. So my idea is like, would it be possible to somehow create a platform where people can really address their frustrations, but at the same time that they can do something creative out of it. That is my idea.
So just to interpret what you're saying, you're talking about a new narrative.
Yes.
And maybe we should end this dialogue by actually focusing on a new narrative and what do we want to have in that narrative. I mean, if we now get people to get together, say, and we have those dialogue meetings, both on a political level, on an expert level, on a citizen level, on a practical level, and so on. What would you say would be interesting to have in a new narrative? Could that be a closing question for us all? And we just take the round. And who wants to start? Andreas, Jan, and Maria. You have to say your name first, and just speak out. So, who wants to go first? I can pick one.
Well, I can start.
You can start, Andreas. That's great.
I can start. Maybe a bit provocative ending of our panel is that if we go back in time 500 years, some decades after the Great Plague, the Kalmar Union was founded.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe as an effect of that, the Great Plague killed lots of people in Europe and the Nordic countries. The union between Sweden and Denmark was formed. In the face of future crises, is a union a more viable option than divided national states?
Okay, so that's an idea you have. Okay. Who should go first? Jan, you're on Bornholm, so you're close to Sweden right now. You're on the site for Folkemødet, 4 days, I guess.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Well, to very short, I think the new narrative. I don't actually think it's so new, but that must be cooperation and cooperation between the states, and it's in the Nordic countries, but also in the European Union. I think it's so important. The COVID-19 has showed us that we are in a global world, and in a global world, separated nations are just small voices. So we really need to cooperate. If it's a Kalmar Union, if it's entangled in the European Union, I don't know. But the cooperation to have a sound voice in a global world, that must be a narrative.
Cool. Thank you very much. And Maria, what is your take on it?
But I think, like all crises, I'm hoping that we learn something, and that something good will come out of this horrific period that we're sort of seeing the end of now, hopefully. And it has actually highlighted the importance of cooperation between countries when it comes to, if you look at the vaccines, for example, I think that the international community has done a fantastic job. I think it has been really fast, and that cooperation has been successful. And I hope that we can build on those more positive sides of how we handle the pandemic. And you also mentioned, I think that's something that's not only affecting this crisis, but everything we do is the false information everywhere, and these. The way that it's the protest that's come out of all this misinformation, that's actually, I think, a really risk to all international cooperation and our societies as a great.
I can also say something here. I have an idea also about, I think you were into it a little bit, Jan, when you talked about joint projects. You were relating them to COVID and vaccines and sharing information and so on. But could we also, I would say, finding projects. It could be projects that unites us in some sort. That maybe string could be a one, or I don't know, a tunnel, or I don't know what, but something where we need to get together in the day-to-day life, and not only in the crisis, but also in our daily lives, and as human beings, and as citizens, and fathers and mothers, and workers, and so on. So that's my little idea. I think we have summed up it very well. You have some concluding remarks, or you want us to I think we have it here.
We have a good starting point to continue our discussions and to find narratives that unite for the future, and to take more steps forward. So, and you know where you can find us, and we know where we can find you, and we are so happy to have two Swedish and Danish politicians on screen to talking to each other about a joint problem. That is a small step for our region, but a great step for Scandinavia.
Yeah. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you for being part of this dialogue, all of you, both the panelists and also your followers.
Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah. Thank you. And bye, everyone, and see you soon again.